This place is my own studio, and it's a kind of, I would say, living animal with all the chaotic vibes it defines. I mean, the fact that it's a constant. I always thought that this place is a kind of a constant mutation, I would say, and change. And also because I'm moving soon into another studio, redesigning then the old cabin for the purpose. But it's yeah, it's a well, what's interesting these days is actually you can. It's not like when I started, where we were quite stuck in one place. But now with modern technology, you can basically work anywhere. I'm also being able, even if this is my headquarter, I would say I can work anywhere in the world these days with just laptop and few keyboards or plugins, and this is a kind of fantastic chance and luck for producers these days. I remember when I was a teenager, my mom was saying, "But why didn't you choose the violin? Because it's much easier to carry on and to go on tour with." And these days, I could say that with a laptop, it's even smaller than a violin, and you can do much more. I mean, this whole project Oxymore is based on this idea that I wanted to pay tribute to the roots of electronic music and the French way, the continental European way of doing electroacoustic music and electronic music. We don't know enough that we don't realize that actually everything started in continental Europe, both in Germany and in France, and Italy, and nothing to do with the US originally, nothing to do with jazz or rock or blues, and probably because we have this heritage from classical music, where we were not trapped into the pop format of 3 minutes. And also because we had this kind of approach, and especially in France, with people such as Pierre-Henry and Pierre Schaeffer, who are, in my opinion, really the real pioneers of the way we are doing music these days, is actually directly linked to what they did. In the late 40s, Pierre-Henry, Pierre Schaeffer were people who suddenly thought that it could be cool to introduce noise and into orchestral sounds, and mixing actually using field recording process, mixing sounds of nature or the city or with orchestral sounds or electric sounds. In the late 40s, they suddenly, I mean, they created more or less everything we are doing now. I mean, avant-garde most of the time is when we become classical. 30 years later, Stravinsky was avant-garde, and then 30 years later, his music became classical. And for them, their music is not maybe that popular these days, but the way what they define the grammar and the vocabulary of contemporary of the way we are producing music these days. Whatever you do these days, hip hop, rock, electro, techno, we're all integrating sound effects in our music, noises in our music. And these guys were at the origin of all this by saying, okay, we could mix the sound of a bird with a clarinet, or the sound of a washing machine with percussions, and this was totally crazy in those days, and nowadays it's almost our day-to-day approach of music production. Oxymore, as we know, oxymoron is actually the idea of joining two elements which have nothing to do with each other, and to create something unexpected. And it's what the roots of electronic music is all about. Electronic music started with people in Germany around Stockhausen or around Pierre Schaeffer here. I mean, stealing some filters of oscillators from radio stations made for maintenance, not made for music, and doing music with it. And the same with musique concrète by recording some, as I said, some noises from nature, from cities, from the human body, and mixing it with orchestral sounds or electric instruments. So this is an oxymoron approach on its own. So I thought it could be quite cool to conceive an entire album around this concept. So this is the reason why that actually Oxymore, like Oxygen, they have something in common apart from the sound of the title. The fact that when I did Oxygen, I had no reference. I had no references because electronic music was really at the beginning, was really starting. So my references were not more linked to movies or paintings than music. For Oxymore, it was the same. I had decided to compose music for the first time, not in stereo, but in 360 and multi-channel. What does it mean? For me, I always thought, since I studied with these great pioneers such as Pierre Schaeffer, that stereo doesn't exist in nature. When I'm talking to you in mono. When a bird is singing, it's singing in mono. And it's the environment around us and our ears as human beings which are creating the perspective in audio. And ironically, the technology today is allowing us to go back to a very natural way of listening to music. For centuries, we were in front of the music. We had a 2D relationship with music. When you are composing for a symphonic orchestra, you know that you have the violin on one side, the percussions in the center, and the winds on the other side. And then when we are in studio, we have two speakers in front of us. When you are in concerts, you have the PA systems in front of you. So we had this kind of constant relationship with sound, almost like a painter with his canvas. And with 360 and multi-channel these days, you can go inside the music, like the difference you have between painting and sculpture, in a sense. And then is the reason why I'm not a great believer of lots of production these days talking about spatial music and binaural music, where most of the time you are taking stereo production, I mean music produced in stereo, and then specializing them afterwards, or mixing them in binaural or in 360 afterwards. For me, it's a little bit like putting colors on a black and white movie. The game changer is actually to conceive and compose the music from scratch in 360, saying, okay, these sounds, I would like to put these sounds here, and maybe moving it to there. And it's, of course, something totally different in terms of composition process and in terms of producing music, because suddenly you have to deal with a total different space. And I've always been obsessed since my early days into the relationship between music and space, and suddenly to be able to do an arrangement, an orchestration in space is like putting planets, audio planets around your head, and this of course is a total different approach, and this is what Oxymore is all about. And I'm absolutely convinced that with the emergence of metaverse, with the emergence of development of VR and XR, I mean, this is going to be the way of producing music in the next few years. And I'm pretty convinced that in a few years from now, we'll consider stereo with the same nice feeling that we can see a gramophone these days from our grandparents in mono. It's from mono, but stereo is great because the clever guys in the 1940s said, okay, why not creating a delay between the left channel and the right channel, and then creating the illusion of space, and this is great. We did lots of masterpieces have been done with this process, but now it's not a matter of just having an illusion of space. It's actually creating music in real space, and that's, of course, is a total game changer. It's what I really tried to explore with Oxymore. This is the reason, and I did Oxymore with no pressure because I had no references like Oxygen. This is the link I wanted to make with Oxygen. So I did it in a total, I would say, freestyle, with just by experimenting. I know that the next album will be it's not going to be the same because I will have Oxymore as a reference. So the freshness I had with Oxymore is the same kind of freshness I approached Oxygen in those days. This is the reason why for me it's a very special project to me, and I hope for the audience. 2023 is going to be quite exciting for me because, you know, I think every generation is bringing new technology, and I've been really lucky to meet a company such as Coda, because just Coda is just in sync and in phase with not only my expectations, but the expectations, in my opinion, of the way we would like to receive and to enjoy music these days. Not being in front of the music, but being inside the music. In terms of performance, the idea that that's going to happen in the mid-aim in the next few days, and hopefully during 2023 for other projects, is actually to invite the audience to be inside the music. And then to create an whole environment where the audience can be surrounded by the speakers and not just in front of it. And even if you are in front of it, to find some tricks and some ways, and we are discussing with Coda to try to ease also this process, and we are following different. We have different ideas for that. I mean, because of course the fact of suddenly having a kind of being surrounded by speakers means that we have to, in the future, to invent new halls, an all new ecosystem, and that's not going to happen tomorrow morning. So if we want to share, which is my priority as a musician, to share my music today, we have to find some tricks and to hijack again, or to twist the current halls, and to be creative. But I'm very enthusiastic to be able to share my music in such a efficient way, emotionally, because, you know, we can talk for hours about technology, but actually, who cares? Because the only result is the emotions, the feeling, and the content. And I can, you know, in no way I could justify. You have lots of people justifying what they're doing by the technique they are using. Okay, the technology we are using is interesting for the reasons we just talking about. But by the end of the day, the only thing what matters is the result, is the content. And but the content is directly linked and interdependent on the technology you're using. So we see that it's for a painter, for a graphic artist, for when you take Avatar, is a fantastic movie. Not only because Cameron is using fantastic revolutionary technology, but also because the content is extraordinary. So, you know, it works both ways. Coda is a very interesting company because they are also they have a very creative approach in terms of the way speakers should be part of our day-to-day life in the future. The big question with technology for us even is, do we want to show technology or to make it invisible? I think there is no answer for that, because both directions have pros and cons. The fact that you show the technology is reassuring for the audience psychologically, and because you say, okay, the sound is my sound is powerful, so I want to show how powerful my sound is. So that's one direction, and it's okay. The other way is also to make technology invisible, and this is also, it goes also with our times where we are thinking about a kind of respect of environment, a kind of purity in terms of our relationship with technology. It goes with electric cars. It goes with pollution or absence of pollution, and visual pollution is of course an issue. And Coda is developing something that is going to be a big game changer in the future. Is actually to create these kind of fantastic panels, which are actually acoustic panels. I mean, with speakers, and the sound is absolutely fantastic. The same sound as the most and the most sophisticated speaker you can have or sound system you can have. But also, what Coda is developing is this kind of magic panels. Magic panels because they are invisible, they are very thin. The sound is absolutely amazing. You can project on them visuals, and also they have acoustic properties. You can also, the big problem in any kind of gigs is actually you are coming in an environment not made necessarily, except if you are in a theater, and even in theaters it's not necessarily ideal for music. Where the acoustic is really bad, and you have to put a lot of efforts for sound engineers to make the whole acceptable and okay for what you have, and to have an equipment which can also at the same time giving you the best possible sound and also adjusting the whole is something quite amazing. And my dream is actually in my next studio to have this kind of equipment in my own environment, because I think it's going to change also. I don't say that it should replace the fact that speakers should be visible, because it's nice also to have a visual reference, but sometimes not. And Coda is with that technology is offering the choice between both use case or both possibilities. Music is not flat anymore. I mean, we must try to create something, a different link, different relationship with the listeners, and even with one speaker. But I've been really quite impressed by the fact that every piece of equipment in the range of Coda technology is based on the idea that you forget technology, and you forget also where the sound is coming from. And this is, what the magic of music is. When it's true for an orchestra. When you listen to, I don't know, Rite of Spring from Stravinsky, you don't. After a while, you except for a musician who technically is able to follow every details, and it's not maybe the best way to listen, to enjoy music. But otherwise, you can listen Miles Davis or Pink Floyd or whoever, and after a while, you don't know where the music is coming from. But with two speakers and stereo, it's still the you still trap into the limitations. And with Coda technology, even if you are in stereo, you don't feel stereo. And I've been really impressed by this kind of vision. And I think it's a vision very in sync and in phase with our times, where we are all talking all over the world about immersive worlds, and the emergence of immersive worlds with VR, metaverse, and all that. And we forget that everybody's talking, when we're talking about metaverse, about visuals. And we forget that sound is much more important for human beings than visuals for giving the feeling of immersion. I mean, the visual field is 140 degrees, the audio field is 360 degrees. So when you are in the middle of a metaverse, for instance, the sound is crucial. This is the reason why that in the next few months and few years, I mean, it's a moment of disruption where musicians and music producers are going to work in a totally different way. And I'm glad that Oxymore is contributing to open the door to this new exploration, new territories. I think that I'm not a technician, I'm not an engineer, but you don't ask a pianist to fix a piano. But technology and art are really linked. We separated, and especially in Europe, for too long, culture and technology. I think they are absolutely interdependent, and it's to understand for me and for a music producer, to understand the acoustics and the law of a speaker. It's like for a violin player to understand the violin. It's the ultimate instrument. This studio is my main instrument. And so, of course, the way I receive the music through the speakers is going to be, as everybody can understand, it's almost a cliche to say that it's going to be the necessary passage to communicate whatever I want to share with the audience. And for the audience, the same. So what's important is we have to actually, at the same time, try to push the boundaries of technology and never forget also the democratization of this technology. The fact that, for instance, when we're talking multi-channel, some people could say, yeah, of course, but you need this kind of equipment and all that. No. With binaural technology, you can have, with your standard headphones and your smartphone, you can have the total immersive experience. But this immersive experience has been designed it has to be designed in professional studios where you can, the composer, the producer, has to listen to his project in the most possible and most efficient way possible. And this is what a company like Skoda is offering me and offering us. Because limitations are also very important for artists. And you can, and it's because of limits, because you're setting up your own limits, that you can create something specific. And actually, with 360 these days, we as musicians, we have still a lot of limitations, because if you are talking about Dolby Atmos has been developed and designed and devised for movie theaters, for the movie industry. Dolby Atmos is allowing for any spectator to have the dialogue in front of you, and then the music on each side and sound effects on the back. For a musician, it's not. We are much more egocentric. We need to have an equidistant relationship with everything around. So actually, even Dolby Atmos these days is not made for us. We had for Oxymore, we had to cheat and to actually adapt a technology not made for us. And this is why I love. I mean, this is the position, the never-ending story with musicians. It's actually to hijack technology which has not been necessarily developed for us, but then creating our own style from these kind of accidents and this kind of hijacking approach. In days where we know that we can only survive this, technology and ecology will evolve in good faith. And the fact that developers for audio are thinking the fact that, for instance, in electric cars or in a day-to-day environment, less is more. The fact that suddenly you become less intrusive is something that goes with our times. We are not in the 80s, in the 90s anymore, where everything had to be big. You can be being big and being ambitious is not the same. And a company such as Skoda is ambitious with the concept of less is more. It's what I like. In 10 years' time from now, the emergence of artificial intelligence and development of development of AI and development of VR and metaverse is going to be a huge game changer. Also in terms of ecology, in terms of our relationship with energy. But beyond that, the fact that we are... I'm not afraid about robots. No, I'm not afraid at all about the development of AI. Every step in technology is offering great opportunities for artists. And it's going to be... so in the next 10 years, I think, first of all, immersive sounds is going to be the stereo of the 21st century. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So actually, a company such as Skoda is totally in sync once again in our times. The fact that also in terms of music, you will be able to conceive, produce, compose and distribute your music, and to share your music from your living room. It's already the case with internet, but it's still very basic, because you still have to deal with a kind of improved version of MP3, but it's still very basic. We're still in the dark age of technology in audio, and we have a kind of fantastic highway ahead of us with the development of technology, and the fact also that with the development of all immersive worlds, we are going to share our music and our creative production with lots of different people. There is also a social aspect to VR and metaverse and immersive world. The fact that some people isolated for geographic reasons, for reasons of handicap, can share at the same time, I would say almost shoulder against shoulder, even if these shoulders are virtual. It's a fantastic opportunity for young artists, for young producers to be part of this new ecosystem. And I think the next 10, 20 years are going to be absolutely amazing in terms of creativity, both for music and for visual arts. A great believer that I'm not a technician, I'm not an engineer. I mean, people are thinking because you are in electronic music, that's interesting. Noise is about, noise is everywhere, and we can do music with this, you know. Just the beginning of a future hit, maybe. So.
Yeah, exactly.